Welcome to Two Great Goatees on a Whistle. I'm your host, Coach Huddy, along with the coach's wife, Amanda, and our first ever remote guest, Coach T. Say hi.
Hey, how's it going,
Yeah,
guys?
so
Thanks
Coach
for having me. I
T,
really appreciate it.
we go back to Gooding when he was here and stuff like that. I knew him when he was coaching at Mountain Home, and he came over to Gooding for a while and stayed over here, and then now he's worked his way over back to where I used to grow up. He's in Pendleton, Oregon now. So, little background on Tyrone. All right. So I kind of threw out a questionnaire, to get some background on T. Sports, played soccer, football, basketball, baseball, track, and then uh, he moved on. He did do high school, then he went on to college, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that. So let's go ahead, T. Share your story. So starting out playing sports, and then where you went from there.
Yeah, just, I picked up sports as something to do as a pastime. And, growing up, that's all we ever did was, go outside, play street ball, go play dunk ball at the grade school, go play pickup ball at the gyms. And, my neighbor growing up was the rec director, Stan Franks, and got to be really good friends with him. I played on the Catholic basketball team and he was my coach. And I got to play a lot of sports and got to be participate in all those things because of him, because he's such a great man. And yeah, I just love the competitiveness of it and the camaraderie with my bros that I played with, all guys I played with and are still friends with to this day. You know, played high school ball, Mountain Home, Idaho, and was a quarterback my entire life from the time I started playing football. And then my junior year, they moved me to running back. Went to camp at Boise State, I think in the summer of '92, was awarded the running back of the camp. And then I went on, played high school. We had a guy, it was crazy. We had a guy named Kennard Mays in high school. Kennard was 6'4", 225, and ran like a 4'4", 4'5", 40, and he played predominant. Yeah, he played predominant running back, and so I moved over to the defensive side and played strong safety. And then had some opportunities. Was in contact with Coach Yarno from Washington State, and Boise State was talking to me. Didn't really know how the whole scholarship thing worked, and did some dumb stuff like, hey, guess what, Coach Sachs? Coach Yarno from Washington State called me. He was offering me a scholarship. Coach Sachs was like, oh, really? Huh. Then I went to when Coach Yarno called. I was like, "Hey, Coach Yarno, Coach Sachs from Boise State called." And he was like, "Huh?" And then there was no more phone calls.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well,
So
especially back then, it's like there was no guidance on getting, how to go through the scholarship programs. Now there's like
no,
every YouTube channel, TikTok, there's all kinds of stuff out there to how to go about it, and the recruiting is obviously changed.
yeah, oh for sure. Especially with like the technology and the internet. And we could do like this. And they could come be in my house and like if they wanted to see what I'm about. They could do it via the internet like we're doing this right now, which is awesome. I'm in Monmouth, Oregon at a high school football camp.
Yeah,
What I'm saying? You guys are still kicking into the G, and we can still get
yeah.
down like we're right here. You know what I'm saying? And then yeah, and then I moved to LA after I graduated. I moved to LA for about a year and a half. Was gonna go to LACC and then try to see if I could walk on somewhere. I lived 2 blocks from USC, and I went to the auxiliary gym there and I played basketball with some of the guys, and oh, you should come play basketball. And I was like, I play football. And then they were like, oh, do we know some of the guys? And I met some of the guys on the team back then. And they're like, you should walk on. Went and played some pickup football. It was crazy with those guys and played hoop with them and stuff. Got to friend them. And then I got a culture shock, Huddy. You're going to laugh at this. So check this out. You know, I'm living down there in LA, right? And I go to this like bodega convenience store that's in this little plaza that's in between where I live and USC, and I see a commotion going on by the customer service desk. Don't pay it no mind. I'm grabbing my Gatorade, my power bars, and I just see this lady and a kid, whatever. I go home. A couple hours later, I lived with a buddy in a fraternity house. I get a knock on the door. No one else is there. So I go open the door and it's these cops. And they're like, have you seen anything suspicious? And I was like, no. They're like, what's going on? Apparently, some lady passed out and she had a small child with her, and she went to hand her because she was collapsing, and they took off with the kid. I called my mom immediately, was like, I cannot live
Oh
here.
my God.
I
Oh my
cannot live
word.
here. People steal people's kids. I can't live here. And the next week I moved back to Idaho. Yeah, the next week I
That's a
moved back to
crazy
Idaho.
story.
I was like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. It was
you
wild,
think
man.
about how laid
It
back
was wild.
Idaho is and stuff like that. And then, you hear stories, just it's a different world down there. And that's crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. It was the wild. It was the wildest time, Huddy. Where I lived was on, where the Coliseum is, and like I'm talking literally 2 blocks away from this Coliseum. Figueroa is one side of it. Martin Luther King Boulevard is on the other side, and you would go from like my neighborhood a block and a half away to like prostitutes and drug dealers and weirdness going on the sidewalk. And then you'd cross the street onto USC property, and they've got cops and golf carts just like, hey, what are you doing over there? I was like, I'm just trying to catch the bus. There's the bus stop. We're
Yeah.
just going.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it's like they obviously are trying to sort of protect the campus, I guess, but you have crime going on 2 blocks away. It's like, meh,
Right.
not our business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as long as
Yeah, they're
not on
not
our
our
property,
problem.
not on our property. I was just like, oh. I was like, like what's going on back
Yeah,
there, right? And they're like, as long as it
and
stays over there, it doesn't come onto the
it's
campus.
like that. In a lot of cities
Not
are
our
like that. I
jurisdiction.
mean, me and Amanda went to Vegas last year to catch Carter's game. It was the last game of the year, and he had come back with one of his teammates who lives in Vegas, and Marshawn Lynch's brother. So yeah, so he plays for Tucson. He's running back for Tucson. So Carter Andrew was really good friends with him, and he drove him up. And I told him, hey, we'll drive down. It was the last game of the year. We'll drive down. We'll pick up your stuff. So I've been to Vegas a lot of times just because my grandparents live there. So I knew the areas that were like different. So and the north side of Vegas, that's a whole different neighborhood. And I had Amanda with me, and so we're
It's a
punching in
different
the
world,
address
right?
to get to the place where the apartment complex was at, and we were going down the road. And Amanda, what was your thoughts?
Lock the doors and don't stop even if there's a red light. I'm good. How are you, Coach
Hello,
T?
Amanda. How are you?
So yeah,
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank
it hadn't rained there forever, but the street corners are wet, and there was a I'm pretty sure there was a mission not right around that area, so there was a lot of people gathered in that area. But I just remember turning down I was like, yeah, I know where we're headed.
Yeah.
And so we got there, and I mean the apartment complex was fine; it was gated and all that stuff, but you walk 2 blocks away, and there's things going on the street that you don't want to be. This was daytime, yeah. So I was just like, okay, so yeah, so it's crazy that what you see on and stuff like that. So all right, we're gonna move on here. So let
For sure.
say that
Like
again.
I was just saying, just the life experiences that I had living in LA. One more thing before we move on. So check this out. I get a job as a valet at LAX Marriott, which is, you know, like on the RTD, you have to get to the 110, get on the highway to get to where the airport was, where I was living by the Coliseum. Guy I was working for was like, oh yeah, the buses run 24/7 here. So I trusted him. He made me work a little later. And I'm sitting at the bus stop for like, I don't know, 45 minutes an hour. And this cop pulls up on me. He's like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just waiting for the bus. He's like, the buses don't run at night. And I was like, what? I walked home and I crossed every gangster movie I've ever seen, Boys in the Hood, all that nonsense, any gangster movie. I walked across Crenshaw, Slauson, like I said, Martin Luther King Boulevard, Figueroa, and I'm in a tuxedo shirt, black khaki pants, sneakers, a backpack with a name badge that says Tyrone, looking like a valet, just walking through South Central LA, like waving at people, like, "Hi guys." Yeah, it was quite the experience, man. I ducked down this alley, and I didn't realize, Idaho alley, 3, 4 houses, no big deal. LA alley, quarter mile, like light at the beginning, light way in the middle, and lots of darkness, and then light at the other end of it. And I start walking in there, and I hit one of the phases where it's dark, and I'm just, tightening up on my backpack, and I can just hear people moving around me behind me. Then it's just athletics. It took me. I left at 1, and I got home at 7 in the morning walking
Oh my gosh,
through South Central LA.
man.
Yeah,
That is nuts.
it was crazy.
Jeez, holy crap. Oh man. All right, let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about like what your passion of for sports just in general. I mean, you played all these sports, which to me makes you a well-rounded athlete, and I think that's something that's to say something. You're not specialized in something. So, what were some of your passions? You know, the why. You know, what was you kind of talked about how you love to compete and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, just the competitive nature of sports, and it got me to, um, it just was like it was what I thought I was supposed to do, and it felt like, and I was, I didn't think I was the greatest or anything, but I was decent, and people said, I've always made all-star teams and like was always competitive, and and coaches seemed coach, like I said, I played quarterback from 7 years old until I was 16. And then before that, I was a soccer player. My older brother played soccer. And so I thought that's what we do. We played, and I played U16, or U12, U14, U16, and U18 soccer. And I just liked the running, and it kept me in awesome shape, the being able to run. Because when I went to play football, I was like, oh, this is all we do. I don't have to run for 90 minutes nonstop. Oh, this is cool. I can get down. There's periods where I don't have to run all the time. And then basketball, like I said, it's what we did as kids, and it's so different now. And then my home life was, my dad was a former Air Force guy, and, very, very military-ish, how he raised us, and, expected lots of discipline and yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. He had his vices and stuff. And so it just made it easier to be athletic and out playing sports and traveling with teams and just playing catch wherever I could, or pick up games,
yeah,
because
that
I
makes
didn't have to
sense.
be home, if
You,
that makes
you
sense.
kind of use a little bit of an
So
escape,
yeah,
maybe. You know.
yeah, for sure. And then yeah, and it worked out. I mean, I was big, I thought I was okay, and it worked out. I got to play a little college football, as a walk on, and it worked out okay. And like I made great friends, friends for life, that through the sport. And just the just the like the joy it brought other people to see, like our little town when we had our little Optimus leagues, and when our little games were playing against these other teams. And and then when we got into junior high and we started to meld together, and then all those athletes, instead of being spread out, we're all on one team. We're all one team playing for Mountain Home. I thought that was pretty cool,
Nice. Yeah,
growing
I
up.
mean, and
And then
you found a healthy outlet. You know what I'm saying? That
for sure,
especially there's things at home, you were able to find something that was a healthy way of doing it, going about it, and I mean that means something. And I think
for sure,
that helps out a
for
lot.
sure.
All right, so you did talk about playing at BSU, which it was great, and getting a walk on, and then so how long did you play at Boise State? Did you get all 4 years or just a few years?
Just a few years. I was there when Pokey Allen, right towards when Pokey Allen started getting sick. I was there. Then I left, and I came back 98, I think. So I was there from 95, 96, and then spring of 98. And then Coach Nutt took over, and it was just not, it was just a different experience with Coach Nutt. Coach Allen was like a player's coach, and he knew my name. I'm just walk on from Mountain Home, Idaho, with all these other cats from all over the country, like ballers. And I learned a lot about myself. It was kind of humbling, because I mean, I thought I was good for Idaho. And then I've seen dudes that are smaller than me, that were stronger than me and faster than me. And I've seen dudes that were gigantic human beings that were faster than me and stronger than me. And I thought, holy
Yeah,
crap,
and
this is what it's all about. This is what the real, like,
there were
I
some
mean,
good years. I want to say, was it 93 or 94, 95? There was you guys national championship area, wasn't it? Or at least you made it close. Maybe it was 96.
yeah, yeah, it was when they went to the one. Yeah, they lost in the semis to
Youngstown,
Young.
wasn't
No,
it?
wait. Yeah, I think they lost to
Yeah, because
Youngstown State.
Hildy was there. Because I
Yeah,
see
I believe it
the
was
irony in
Youngstown.
that is you're wearing Pendleton gear,
Yeah,
and I was at LeGrand, and Hildy was playing at Pendleton. Tony was
I
playing
know,
there.
right?
Yeah.
I know, that's so
So, and
crazy, man.
I saw
So
him,
crazy.
and I didn't know him at the time. I just, there was some people I went to school with that were somehow related to him, but I think he was at Eagle or something. He was a basketball coach or something. I'm not sure, but that's when I saw him last.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think the last place I heard he was at Eagle for a while, and I don't even know where he. I used to see him when, like when I was in Gooding and stuff, when we'd go to the BSU coaches clinic that Jack Parker would put on. I'd always see him, and I think it was the
Yeah.
Eagle crew that he was
Yep.
rolling with.
All right, let's move on. So currently you're coaching at football right now. You're obviously at a football camp over at Western Oregon, and you're coaching the DBs and special team coordinator. Nice.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you are coaching. You're one of the
Yeah.
assistant coaches for Blue Mountain Community College, the Wolves.
Yeah, for the women's
Nice.
program over there. Yeah, go Wolves,
Yeah.
go Wolf
And-
Pack,
And
run with the pack.
on
Yeah,
top of
dude.
that,
It's
went to Kelly's former classmates that played at Union, and it's like your first year there. It was it Brianna? No. Trying to think, what was her teacher's name? Was it Brianna?
Cope?
Cope?
No,
Not Cope.
I don't know. Brianna was the girl's
Brianna
name.
was her first name. I want to say it was your first year when you were coaching there. She played basketball. She was playing basketball for you guys. So yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
she went to school with Kelly.
She went to school with Kelly in grade school,
Nice.
and they were the same age and everything. And then
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Brianna. Oh gosh,
I don't remember what it was.
I'm trying to think. Not Nap. Core.
Core.
You-
It was a core. Yeah,
Yeah. Bree. I love Bree.
yeah,
Bree was,
yeah.
I love Bree.
Kelly
Yeah, Core,
played
yeah,
softball.
Bree was a good
Played
teacher.
softball with her
Sure.
and stuff like that. So yeah. So there's another connection. So yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy circle. Huddy, you know what I'm saying? Like, when, like I said, I'd wind up in Pendleton. I was in Mountain Home for 15 years. Didn't work out there. Had an opportunity a couple times to be the head coach, and they had different plans than what I thought. Thought I was going to wind up at BK. Talked to Coach Brennan, one of my good friends, mentors. He was like, "Hey, I have a job for you coaching. We need to find you a job like in the Boise district or with BK or something." And it just didn't work out. And so he told me, go to Gooding. It'll be a good experience for you. They're doing good things, and go there. And then, the rest is history. 5 years down there with you guys and Gooding, and getting to meet good guys like you, and good players. It was crazy. 3A football. I didn't even know what that was until I got to be a part of it, and just like, it was
Yeah,
awesome.
it's
It was
crazy
awesome. It
for
was
a
a good
3A
time.
school.
Lots of good
We
dudes.
pumped out some talent in not just football,
Yeah.
but like track and field and
Yeah.
other things too. So it's
Like a lot of sports.
so a brief description on your coaching style. Let's talk about your coaching style and your philosophies and kind of what your thoughts are and how you approach coaching.
Just, like I said, the part about my home life growing up, it was, I think my dad might have seen me play sports and actually be there. Like I was that kid that on senior night, they put me last. My mom worked for Micron, and my dad worked at as a correctional officer after he got out of the military. And they always had to work in the evenings. And I was always the kid. Were your parents going to make it? And I was like, they said they're going to try. I don't know. And then they'd call my name out, and I'd be the guy stand out there with the flower for my mom and whatever for my dad. And I just give it to somebody else's parent, like, let's go play the game, like whatever. This is whatever. And that was like that in basketball. It was like that in football. And so I just like it. I'm fair and firm. You know what I'm saying? I have standards that I expect to be followed, and how I'm pretty. I can coach with discipline, and I also get that there's situations and stuff and circumstances where it doesn't work out. Like the coaching style, and I love kids to death. I love the fact that I get to give back and like give them knowledge that they don't have. That I can share, like the story of how to beat a walk on and what that took, and like just like I can relate to some kids because it seems not every kid has a perfect home. You know what I'm saying? And it's either a single parent or it's a separated you know what I'm saying? Separated home, and they have to deal with certain things. And just if I could step in and make it a little easier for a kid, through sports, and give them something to think about like I did. I got to be here for an hour and do the funnest thing in the world to play a sport, and don't have to worry about the other things going on till I get back to them, and I've had a lot of great mentors as coaches. Like I said, Tim Brennan from Bishop Kelly. She's Coach Brock from Middleton. Some of my high school coaches, Dick Kellum, so many. Coach John Strolick, he came from Weezer my senior year. He was really good at Weezer back in the day, and I just liked being a coach, and I liked how they treated me, and I try to emulate that, and even more so because I mean they, it's different. Times are different now. Like, it's hard. 50-year-old dude, and you go up to a kid and you're like, hey, what do you want to listen to while we're practicing? And they're saying some of these songs. I'm like, what? Who's that? I was like, okay, whatever. As long as it's clean. As long as it's clean, let's get that straight. As
And
long as
that's
it's
so
clean, we can
hard.
play it. Got to be edited.
Yes. Well, and you've
Yeah,
worked
because
in it.
everything doesn't.
So you've worked in education too, so you know how it goes. So you understand being working in
Yeah,
youth sports,
for sure.
having that education background helps too. And the fact that you've worked in education, so you know that nothing's black and white. Everybody's got a story. And so how you can take that and approach that to a kid and understand that, it's okay, what has this kid got going in his life and how can I reach him? I mean, that's huge to be able to have that kind of talent to be able to do stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, man. Because like not everybody has a perfect life at home. It can be concealed, and on the outside it looks like, oh, everything's sunshine and rainbows, and real there's turmoil that you don't you know that they don't speak about. And if I can help them forget about those things and become a better human being by the time I'm done with them, I feel satisfied. Like it's still crazy. Just every coach I've coached for 23 years now, and I get invites to weddings and like their first child, and phone calls from guys I coach. Since when I started, like in 2002, I had a kid, or gosh, I want to say the second year I was in Gooding, a kid from Buell went to school with someone from Gooding. I can't remember who it was, and he's like, it was one of Loveland's friend. What was the stud basketball player who played football too? Kid from Buell, dark hair, kind of curly dark hair. I can't remember what his name was.
Yeah, I know
Anyway,
you're talking about. I can't think
you
of
know
his
who I'm
name.
talking about,
Yeah,
right? He
yeah, I
went
know
up
you're
to U
talking
of I.
about. Yeah.
I can't think of his name either. It's so funny. He sends Caden Loveland this message, and it's like a screenshot of this kid giving a presentation in his communications class about a person in your life that made a big impact. And this kid is giving a speech on how I was as a person to this entire classroom of college kids. And that kid was like, that looks like your guys' coach from Gooding. Then he sent it to Loveland, and Loveland asked me, and I was like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
That was when I had my
Yeah.
long dreads, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in Mountain Home there. So
Yeah.
just
And
just those
I mean,
things are
it's great. I
rewarding.
mean, that's one thing we've always preached, me and Gonzo and Hunter. It's like, it's not the wins. It's not seeing these kids go off to D1 schools, pros. I mean, and that is great. It's awesome when we see that happen. But for me, it's like, it's seeing these kids graduate, starting their own families, finding their happiness in whatever that is, whether it's their job that they're doing, raising their kids, doing some of their favorite hobbies. That's just as rewarding to see that happen with some of your former players or students. And to me, that's what I enjoy about it, seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
The end result, like I said in my.
Yep. All right.
Can I weigh in
Yeah, go
for a
for it.
second?
Yeah, go ahead. I want your
Go
thoughts.
ahead, what's up?
So I know Coach T through you and through Gonzo and stuff, and our daughter was in Gooding High School when he was working over there. We know with some one-on-one students and stuff, doing his thing, and I don't think she ever played sports for him, but he made a point to make her and every other student he came in contact, whether he was working with them or not, to feel like they had value. And I'm gonna, like Kelly, I think it was her sophomore, junior year, had a poppy seed muffin and failed the drug
She
test
popped
at
the
the
test.
school. And she would always come home and be like, "Yeah,
You remember
T was
the
asking
That's
me for
right.
drugs."
That's
And
right.
but you make those connections
Yeah.
with those kids, and it
Yeah.
matters.
So you got the poppy seed
Yeah.
muffins?
And
What's
she
up,
did.
girl?
She made poppy seed muffins and brought them to you.
Yeah.
I
It
remember her
does
making
matter.
poppy seed muffins for you. Yeah.
Yeah, she
But it's
did.
those connections that
Oh,
make all the difference in the world,
delicious.
whether you coach a kid or not.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh yeah, like even the kids in the hallway, like whether they play sports or not, I'm still associated with that school, and like I just like you never know who needs someone to just be like, what's up, man? How you doing? How's your day? Oh, you doing good? Okay, cool. That's all they need is to change their whole mood or their whole day. They could have started off with crap, didn't have anything to eat in the morning, but at least one person acknowledged them because a lot of kids, I think, in my opinion, I worked for special ed as the para educator. That's what I did. And then I became the behavioral interventionist for the SPED department. And then in Gooding, also working in under the SPED department, working with kids with issues, if you will. Um, and it just all they needed was someone that would like believed in them or just would listen to them and let them vent and then have a real conversation instead of just labeling them, let's say, that, oh, he's a bad kid or she's a bad kid. Or, they just needed an outlet, like I did with football or sports and all. They just needed the outlet. And, you know, it was very rewarding, and just to see some of those kids graduate is rewarding, and like, getting messages from, well, thanks, T, it was for you, even though I didn't do nothing but say hi to them and try to, hey, stay on your stuff, you got this due and this due, make sure you get it done. You need help, let me know. I'm here for you. If I can find somebody that can help
Yep.
you, I'll definitely do
Yeah,
that.
and I can tell you just as a mannequin that you had a huge impact in our community, and I mean, and so having you been a part of this,
Matt,
at least our lives, it's been great. And the next question I got for you is, what is one thing you wish parents, players, media understood about coaching? I mean, we talk about it a lot, things that we have to deal with. What are some things that you wish you could just open this book up and just say, hey, this is what's going on that maybe a lot of people don't see?
yeah. They don't see the behind the scenes stuff that we do as coaches. We make a stipend or whatever, you get paid, yeah. But like I said, where you live, like in Texas, if I was a high school coach, I could make, you know, six figures and just coach football, because it's religion down there and it's just different. And like here in Idaho, they pay, what the district has, and some districts have more money than the others, we know all that politic nonsense. But if they just knew how much work we put in to take care of their kids sometimes, to make sure their kids on the road trip and has something to eat or is, with the right people and mentoring the right things. So when those kids become adults, like you said, they're productive people in society. I think that's huge. And I think that sometimes I wish parents understood because, I luckily all my head coaches have been really good about they take the brunt, they're the face of the program 100%. I get it. Any disgruntled parent, tell them to send them to me. I'll talk to them. But I've also had parents that have come up to me and just like, why isn't my kid playing? He's the best kid. And then I'm always like, have
Yeah.
you been to our practice? You're more than welcome to. You can come to any of our practices. Just sit in the stand. Don't tell your kid you're coming. Don't tell your kid you're coming. Just sit in the stands and show me the effort that your child that you say should be starting is putting over the kid who is starting and is doing the right things and who's going to class and isn't getting in trouble with teachers or not skipping class, makes it to practice on time, does the extra things to make him a
Okay.
better student and a better athlete. Then we can have a conversation, and that and just the like some people are so delusional. They think their
It's
kid's a
gotten
D1 because
worse
he's good.
in social media. Well,
Oh, the social media
and me
era.
and Gonzo talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. We were talking about like everybody sees the end result. They don't see the work. And the work is not glorified like the end product is, and
No.
this generation, because I work with middle schoolers, they're at the peak of delusional at that time. Their dreams
Yeah.
haven't quite been shattered yet. And I want kids to dream big anyways. I want them to dream
Yeah.
big, but it's like, it's all about the 3 game in basketball. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
For sure.
really? You can barely make
Yeah.
it from the free
Yeah.
throw line. And you're back there just chucking threes. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Hey man, I'm telling you, even at the JUCO level at Blue Mountain, like, you know, the fundamentals matter, right? Like, yeah, you're fast, or yeah, you can jump, yeah, you can shoot outside. But then we get an opportunity where it's a fast break, we kick you the rock, and you have to be forced to make a left-hand layup, and you can't. Well, how about we work on that? How about we work on that? Just
right.
go left hand, left hand, left hand. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you want to shoot a a layup on the left side with the right hand. It rolled off the rim. Like, well, the angles, the backboard, the way geometry works, it's gonna, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't work. Just that, and then just like if they could understand, like they're good. How do I say this? They may be good for their league. They may be good for their town, but there's a million towns and a million leagues across the country, and there's dudes that are doing things differently. If you're not putting in the work in the weight room and understanding how weights affect your body, nutrition, sleep, there's specialized places now. Like when we were growing up, at least when I was growing up in Mountain Home, there was no such thing as like rock armor. Yeah, over in Meridian where you can pay a fee and you can run up this wall and run like a cheetah when you're done because you're overspeed and you're running uphill and running on these treadmills that they strap you into. And the guy, that's his job. You're paying him to be like, no, here, do turnovers like this. This is why you need to not take this step and not false step because you're losing momentum or you're got to get your arms to rock forward and back, the hammers from the ears to the pocket, because you're killing your momentum as you run, rocking your arms side to side, if you will. And it's those little things that um we didn't have, and those kids have it. And then, you know, it's also a moneymaker for some people. So it's crazy.
Picture from a 7. Oh, so I got a few more questions for you, and then we gotta have a couple. We're gonna do a little rapid question with you, and then we got a couple segments you're gonna be a part of
Okay.
that we'll get to here in a second. So we're talking about you wish parents, and you did a really good job explaining what it was you wish parents could do. Last question I got for you is, what's the most important lesson sports coaching has taught you?
That life isn't fair. You could have the most talented kids, but if they aren't bought into your culture or whatever you want to call it, I mean, culture, I guess would be the best word for it. Like, you're going to get beat. And then how to react as both a player, as a coach, as a fan, just how to handle that like gracefully. Because, I mean, there's heated moments in sports, no matter what sport it is. And then rivalry games, they get pretty intense. How to handle that gracefully as on the good side of the dub, and then also how to handle that on the bad side of the L. Because emotions are high, and there's a lot on the bragging rights. There's implications on playoffs and advancing your team and all that stuff. It's just um, I think that it's just important to teach kids how to handle defeat because you're not always gonna win. There's always gonna be somewhere down the road you're playing a sport that they're gonna have as many kids as talented as you have, or maybe more, or bigger kids that you have and more talented, whatever the case may be. And you're gonna have to learn how to fight through that and trust the process that what the coaches are teaching you is sound and not go off the reservation because you're again, whatever it may be, club team coach, 7-on-7 coach, this guy who's my personal sports specialist development guy or whatever they're called, said this is how I should
Right.
do it. Just listen to your coach and then trust it. And then if it doesn't work, have a conversation and self advocate for yourself. We don't, it doesn't need to go home and go, behind the scenes how this coach is terrible. He doesn't listen to his players when we don't know these problems are going on. And then parents are coming down, breathing down our neck, telling us, well, you need to fix it. Well, we didn't even know there was an issue. So let's talk about that first. Why didn't he come and tell us that he wasn't happy with the situation? And then we could have had a conversation with him about why he's not playing or whatever he was upset about. And then maybe he just didn't understand what the rotation, how the depth chart work, and what is expected from your position coach or from your head coach to make it so that you're a starter. Maybe you're a special teams player, but they're just as important. And a lot of people, they want to be the quarterback. They want to be the star running back, the star receiver, tight end, whatever it may be, the guy that can shoot in basketball and knock down threes. They want to, and they can, like you said, they can't even shoot a layup or a mid-range jumper. And they're talking about they want to get back and knock down threes. Come on, man, get real.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. And yeah, everything he said it is nuts. And to me, that's something as coaches, and I think as parents, you got to be able to let kids fail at stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're your lawnmower parents or helicopter parents that are straight up making everything easy for them. And they are, they're hovering, or the lawnmower ones are just mowing everything down. So there's no obstacles for them. And Bruce Brown, who I was talking to about a couple of weeks ago, I've seen him talk, and that guy is a proactive. He has the proactive coaching program, and his biggest thing to parents is like, out of all the things you can control in your kid's life, sports isn't one of them. That's something they have to take ownership in. And if those kids can learn how to handle their business when there is an issue with a coach or whatever, an adult, let them take care of it. Now, obviously, don't wash your hands completely. And if it's, it gets to a point where it's like, hey, it's not working out, then obviously step in. But the kids, and me and Amanda talked about this, and I know you know this, the kids that we see go be successful, how often are we hearing from those parents?
Never.
I mean,
other than
never.
maybe a thank you at the end of the year, here's a card. We appreciate you, all you did for our kid. But, they're never in our ear about like, well, because they sit back and like, you go talk to Coach T.
This
You have
is
a
their
problem
thing.
with why you're not playing? Yeah. They're the experts in it. That's why they do it. So if you have a problem, maybe there's something you need to fix.
Right. And so to me, if that would be my advice to parents, is just out of everything that you have control over, getting their driver's license, how late they can stay out.
Right.
Sports is one thing that let them have that. Let them have ownership of that. And the kids that find success and that move on are the ones that 99% of the time have those parents that the only time you're hearing from them is, hey, good game, coach, or hey, tough loss, whatever. But that's it.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
And then
All right.
they just that's crazy.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna move on to another segment, and this is gonna be rapid fire. So I got 5 questions for you, quickly as you can think on this. And I didn't put this in the survey. Okay. All right.
Oh, man.
So
Okay,
I'm gonna and so it's not gonna be hard, but this was for fun. Okay. So here we go. The first one: favorite coach of all time, any sport.
Any sport, man, I'd have to say Pete Carroll because he seems like a player's coach. Like everywhere he goes, he has it.
Okay, good. All right, favorite sports movie.
The Water Boy. I like The Water Boy.
Water Boy. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Did you have any game day superstitions when you play or coaching? Do you have any superstitions, or did you?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I like to, before I come to the game or to the facility, I like to go in my house and turn up some old school 90s rap, some Tupac or maybe some, Snoop Dogg or some other Biggie, and just get hype and dance around the room and just get fired up. You know what I'm saying? Have flashbacks like sitting in my locker with my big Koss headphones and my Sony yellow with the water seal clip. You know what I'm talking about? Walkman or my Discman or my Discman. Yeah. And just sitting in my locker, rocking out. It's like, yeah, we about to go do this. We about to get down. We about to feel it.
Good. All right. One word to describe your coaching journey. One word. If you can think of one word that has described your coaching journey so far.
It's been rewarding. I've been blessed to be in good places. I've got to be good coaches, and the head football coach. I want to mention to make sure I mention because it's important to me because Eric Davis was a quarterback at Boise State, and that's how I knew him. And he's the head coach here, and that's how we linked up. And when I moved here, he gave me an opportunity as a walk-on coach, and like I've been here 5 years, and and I told him I don't care about the money. I just want to coach kids, and I'll coach any level you want me to coach at. But of course, he was like, "No, you're going to coach varsity with us," and I was like, "Okay, but I'll coach anywhere. I just want to coach." And this is the first year in 5 years I'm going to be an actual contracted school, like coach, like. Yeah, so it's cool. And
you're actually getting a stipend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So I'll be able to get,
all right,
a dollar menu item at McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, if you work out how much you get paid an hour, it's a few cents. So
that's being generous.
So one more question. That's being generous. So one more question, and then we're going to move on to the next segment. So if you could coach any pro team for a day, what would it be? Who would it be? If you could coach any pro team.
Any pro team. I'm going to go with
pro team for a day.
For a day. I would want to coach the Seattle Seahawks when they had Marshawn Lynch because he's crazy and he's a savage. He's that different maker. Like he's so hood. Yeah, I know. I see you. I know, Huddy. I know about the birds over there.
You got me.
Yeah,
Yep.
to just have that many athletes on the team, like when they had Sherman as a corner and some of the other guys, and they're just to be able to coach that many caliber, high IQ guys. I think any sport would be fun because, as as a coach, sometimes our IQ, sports IQ, not saying IQ, our sports IQ is low, and then you have to bring kids through to learn, so they can understand things. Those dudes, that's why
They
they're
were at
there.
another level.
A whole
They
different.
were, yeah. And that defense, you talked about Sheridan and Thomas and
Yeah.
Chandler and Wagner.
Ooh,
Cam, man, he was hammer. Man, I
hammer,
loved
man.
watching him play. Yeah.
hmm
So,
I think
wow.
it's just that group of guys. That'd be pretty cool, man. I think that would be pretty fun.
And, hey, that was perfect, man. That was awesome. All right. Good job on that. All right. The next segment we're moving on to, and you're going to be a part of this. And the man has been a part of this before, movie mashup. So what I do is I take a rom-com movie and I take a sports movie and I mash it together. I put it through ChatGPT and see what it spits out for me. So the two movies I chose today is we are swinging for the fences with When Harry Met Sally meets Major League.
Oh God.
Oh, man.
So it's going to be called
I'm
When Ricky
crying
Meets
in
Sally.
baseball. Oh, let's go.
So love in the so this is going to be called When Ricky Meets Sally, Love in the Bottom of the Ninth. We are
Nice.
going to have rom-com banter, bull bin chaos, and maybe an orgasmic hot dog scene at the concession stands. So
Whoa.
here we go. Recap, Harry Met Sally is the whole premise of the movie is can men and women be friends? That's the theme of the movie, right? And they always have the real life couples and they talk about how they met. Then we have Major Leagues, right? Charlie Sheen, the scrappy underdog at the time, the Cleveland Indians, and you had the owner who's trying to trash the team, sink the team there. All right. So we got Sally Albright, the team. So this is the premise for the show. So I'm going to pitch the movie. I'm going to do I'm going to lay out the premise of the movie, the trailer and all that. So here we go.
I love it.
All right. Here we go. Sally Albright is the team psychologist. Ricky Vaughn is the aging closer with a live arm and a dead love life. Here we go. Talking points for us. So this is something that we could also put into coaching. Force proximity. Think about the 13-hour bus rides, late night video reviews, creating chemistry in the same way a New York car rides did for Harry and Sally. So here you go. Here's some sound effects, a crack of the bat. And here we go. Sometimes the chemistry stings like 101 heater high and tight. Just ask Ricky. Ricky, Wild Thing Vaughn, commitment phobia, new pitch vulnerability. Dr. Sally Albright, an obsessive order to mask fear for failure. You have Jake Taylor and Maria. This is your B plot, mature romance going on the side. Owner turned influencer. Hire Sally to brand rename, accidentally sparking chaos. You have Ricky saying, hey, take the ball, Sally, not your advice. You have Sally, fine, I'll chart your ERA and your emotional baggage. Grand gesture, surprise call-ups on your birthday. Miscommunication equals scribbled scouting reports misread as love notes. Quote, I'll have what she's having equals stadium, kiss cam, and chili dog. Coaching takeaways. Teams win with teammates knowing others' deeper stats, the same way relationships thrive over cute banter. All right, here is your trailer dialogue now. This summer, love steps up to the plate. Crowd roar. Enter is meet Ricky, a washed-up closer with a wild arm and a wilder ego. Meet Sally, sports shrink, who alphabetizes her snack drawer. They said romance and baseball don't mix. They were wrong. Crack of the bat, swooning violin comes in. From the dugout, the Cleveland to the diners of Manhattan. Hearts race faster than fastballs. Will a last place team and a first place stubborn people find common ground before the final out? All I have what she's having with mustard. When Ricky meets Sally, Love in the Bottom of the Ninth, coming to theaters.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
Oh my
just to let
goodness.
you know, I've done a few of these. So we did, what was it? I did Princess Bride and what did I do Princess Bride? What movie?
I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember what. But I've done a few of them. So if you watch some of these last 3 or 4, like 5 or 6 episodes, I've had some of these.
You did dodgeball and
It's Dodgeball and Princess Bride.
Yes, it was horrible sounding.
Man,
I would
I
never
can
watch
only
it. It was horrid.
I had the one I did with Gonzo. It was Star Wars because he was big. He was, man, I want to do one with Star Wars. I'm all right. So I did Star Wars in Caddyshack.
Oh,
So I did
bet
that one.
would be common.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, check out the other episodes. It's on one of the latest ones. All right. So the last segment before we get done here, we do a mascot of the week. So I picked some random mascot that has an unusual name, and we kind of talk about it and kind of the origin. So this week's going to take us to Bend, Oregon, actually. Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So a little history, a little population, little background on Bend. Population in 2024 right now is around 107,000 people. That's nearly up 8% from 2020 when there was about 99,000. And the population in 2010 was 76,000. So it keeps growing.
It's growing fast.
And even when we
So
went
big,
through there
yeah.
last week, it was crazy. Owner occupied housing rate is at 62%. Median value for home ownership units is 646,000. So, whew, wow. Medium selected monthly owner's cost mortgage is around $2,200. Your median rent in the same town is around $1,700. Let's see, households, there was 43,000 households, and the person per household was around 2, just over 2. So not very many families. Median household income is around 88,000, which you're going to having to pay for a $600,000 home.
No doubt.
All right. So our history of our mascot. Okay. You have an idea what the mascot is?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Is it the
Key?
lava bears? The Bend.
Oh, yeah. We got the lava bears, also known as the sandlappers or dwarf grizzlies or the North American sun bear.
No way.
So so that's what they got called. So the story behind this is interesting. So it's basically a variety of black bear that was found in the lava beds in South Central Oregon. So anybody ever goes down to Oregon in that section, there was a lot of volcanic activity. You got cinder cone volcanoes all over that town, and you got anything that represents, volcanoes happened there a long time ago. So the animal was described to be a very small bear with woolly light brown fur, and a few lava bears that were killed or captured were a little larger than badgers. Yeah. So in the
Real?
They had one stuffed, and it's actually, and I'll tell you about that here in a sec. So it was once thought they were a separate species, but however, scientists who examined the species determined the animals were stunted due to the harsh environment in which they lived. So basically, because
travel a little ways.
Well, because the environment they lived in and all that volcanic area, there wasn't a lot of foliage, so it was stunning their growth. So they acknowledged that the lava bear never really existed as a unique species. But from 1970 to the early 1930s, there was a number of people reporting seeing small bears in the lava beds surrounding the high desert country of North Lake County, Oregon. The bears were initially called sandlappers, but eventually got known as the lava bears. The first documented encounter was in 1917, when a sheep herder named O.T. McKendry killed a small bear near Fossil Lake. McKendry thought it was a black bear cub, but upon further inspection, they don't know. Well, I guess thinking that it's going to end up killing his sheep later on. I don't know. So McKendry thought it was a black bear cub, but upon further inspection, he found that the animal was a very small adult bear. That had the animal mounted as by a taxidermist, and the mounted lava bear is an exhibit in the Dalles, and then later in Lakeview.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either. No. So in 1924, senior high school selected the lava bears as their school's mascot. The mascot was chosen shortly after a living bear was exhibited in Bend. At the time, it was thought the lava bears might be a unique species, but then they found out that wasn't. In 2013, the Oregonian newspaper conducted a statewide survey asking Oregon sports fans to identify their favorite high school team mascot. Fans from across the state of Oregon selected the Lava Bears as the top pick for the large school mascot.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's your history of the Bend Lava Bears.
That's crazy. Hey, check this
So,
out, Huddy.
go
Connection
for it.
to the lava bears. Connection to the lava bears. The only reason I even guessed when you said Ben was one of the head coaches I had. He moved from Arizona. His wife was in the Air Force, and he was in Davis's wedding. He was one of his groomsmen, and his name is Brian Floyd.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's so crazy, and I always made fun of him because he was a lava bear. I was like, how aggressive is a lava bear? What is even a lava bear? He's like, man, don't talk crap about my mascot, whatever, tiger. And I'm like, yeah, it's a tiger. It's not a lava bear. And then now hearing this, I'm like, it's just. I mean, badgers can be pretty
Well,
big, but like, it's not a bear.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, oh, bear.
it's a lava
That's
bear.
funny.
So, for me, I played LeGrand. So at the time, LeGrand, we were 4A, which 4A was the biggest in the state at the time, and we were the smallest 4A school. So in our conference was the IMC, and in the conference was LeGrand, Pendleton, Hermiston, and then everything else. And this was conference was in Central Oregon. It was Bend, Mountain View, Prineville, which was Kirk County, and Redmond. So there was 7 of us, and it cracked me up. So moving over here to Idaho, and they're like, everybody's complaining, driving to Declo or in American Falls, which was, it's about a 2-hour drive. But I'm like, and I'm like, our league games were like 6-7 hour bus trips. We literally leave like at 5 in the morning to travel to go play an evening game, and then get back like at 2-3 in the morning. And so that was for football. And then for basketball, what they did, and for baseball, softball, they would usually play on the weekends. They would make a trip to Central Oregon. So they might go play Friday night game against Redmond, stay the night, and then play like an afternoon game in Bend. And then they'd come home. So yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
And it's crazy now because our league is the Gall is what it's called, the Greater Oregon League. And
Yeah.
it's,
because Pendleton's dropped down.
Yeah,
they're dropped down with LeGrand and Baker and Ontario.
Yeah.
Mackay. Is that it?
No, But that's it. There's only 4. It's just only the 4 of us in the Gulf.
There's 4 of you guys now.
Yeah.
So
there's
yeah.
only 4 of us. But I can relate to those road trips because we play Redmond. I think game 3 this year. We have to go to Weiser this year because we did a home and a home with them. But we played Caldera, a new high school over in that area.
That's in Bend.
I hear you.
Actually, we drove by that school.
Yeah, Caldera. They got a turf field, man. It's really nice. Like the first year we played them, it was the first year they opened, and they only had freshmen and sophomores because everyone else that was in that area was going to Summit and Mountain View. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So Bend has grown so much that when I was there was 2 high schools. And then probably about 15, 20 years ago, they added Summit. And then not Crater, what do you call it? Caldera. Yeah, and we drove by Caldera actually when we were over there last week heading to the coast. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy how big Bend's grown. It's just blown up, and we just skimmed the outside of it, but it's getting to the point where it's starting to work its way towards Lapine.
Well, it's pretty much in Lapine, which used to be
there's a pretty good gap.
25-minute gap there.
A nice gap of like trees and stuff, and now Lapine's starting to grow into there, so it's got big. All right, I want to thank Tyrone for being our guest. I want to thank the coach's wife for being a part of this. Everybody who's been listening, we have now hit 3 countries, if you count the United States. I got a listener from the UK and one from India. So they happened to stumble upon our podcast. So, hey, anybody who wants to listen, please do. I want to, again, Coach T, thanks for being a part of this. And goodbye, everybody. Take care. All right, that's done.